Welcome to the November meeting for the Northeast Florida chapter of Sisters in Crime in Jacksonville, Florida. And I am Lana McCara. I'm the president of the chapter, and I'm so excited today to welcome our speaker who is got a lot of credentials. So let's get started here. We had a little bit of a technical we're starting a few minutes late, which hardly ever happens. One announcement, December is our Christmas social. So please come out. We're going to be honoring some people, and we're going to be doing a group game, a detective game, kind of like mystery theater kind of thing. I'm excited about getting our members involved in some fun stuff. And then also we're going to visit your book. So bring your book and get ready to have a good time. We're going to be videoing little clips of you and your book for social media for you. So that's on December 14th, and it's at 1:15 p.m. We're in the afternoon on that day. There's a lot of activities for Christmas in December, so we are at 1:15 on December 14th. Okay, our guest today is Jason Weiss. Jason has practiced law for over 2 decades when he discovered that his true passion was in teaching and mentoring, and he began working with attorneys who sought greater satisfaction from their careers. He guided them toward alternative business options that could leverage their law degrees. That's brilliant, Jason. I just love this. Jason completed a Juris Doctorate cum laude at the University of Miami School of Law and a BA with honors from the University of Florida. And I'm so happy to say Jason is in Southern Florida. He's a Florida guy. He's licensed to practice law in both Florida and Washington, D.C., and he's a board member of Benefits Specialists Incorporated and president of the Leadership Coral Springs class of 2011. He served as an adjunct professor at Nova Southeastern School of Law and St. Thomas University, and as a judge for the Broward County Teen Court Program. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much. That took a trip down memory lane, so thank you. I am so honored to be here and excited to be here. I will self-promote. You were talking about books and that kind of stuff, so I will self-promote that I'm an author. I have my book. It's called Shit They Never Taught You in Law School: The Survival Guide for Navigating the Law. And I will say this, it is not geared only towards lawyers. A lot of friends and family members picked it up and they said, you need to market this to non-lawyers as well because there are so many good tips in there. So you can find it on Amazon, and I'd be honored and thrilled if people were to go get it. And if you let me know you got it, I can autograph it or do something fun, in addition. So again, thank you for having me. I'll give you a quick background about myself. I am not a criminal lawyer anymore. I started when I was in law school doing research for criminal attorneys, and I got involved in 2 cases. One of them was a federal death penalty case in Puerto Rico. And the reason I say it that way is because in Puerto Rico, they do not have the death penalty. And in order to go ahead and deal with these heinous crimes that the clients were being charged with, they needed to bring us in as special counsel for federal work. And I kind of found it neat. The whole story was about these people chopping up victims and feeding them to their hogs and pigs because they would go ahead and eat all the bones. It's very similar to the movie Hannibal. So that's what it was all about, and I found it neat. I found it challenging, grotesque, but all of that. And then when the second case that I had to work on came in and it involved some child pornography, that's where I made the decision that criminal law wasn't for me. I can't give details of the case, nor will I, but the gist of it was that somebody had images of young children on his or her computer, and my job was to go through it and categorize it while I was in law school, and I couldn't do it, and I had to resign from the job. It just wasn't for me. So at that point in time, I decided, okay, what am I going to do with my career? What am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? And I switched over to civil law, business disputes, contract disputes, all of that. And I said to myself, good riddance with criminal law. Yay, I was so happy. And then before you know it, I was dragged back in. And I really wasn't dragged back in because all of a sudden, I had to represent people, that were charged with crimes or that kind of stuff. But really, I was drawn back in just because of the nature of the law. So, as most of you know, or everybody would know, there's two sections of the law. There's the criminal section, which is, the state charges you with a crime because you've been accused of doing something wrong. And then there's the civil path, which most of the time it's another entity, private citizen, or business suing you as a private business, entity, or individual for something that you allegedly did wrong. Sometimes civil cases can be brought by government agencies and like different employment boards and all of that. But for purposes of today, let's just say it's a private action, a state action. Private action is civil, state action is criminal. And we'll go that route. However, even me as a primarily civil attorney, I'd say 99.9% of my cases are civil in nature and not criminal. I get dragged into the criminal world all the time. So how does that happen? And that happens with things as recent as the Florida Bar News. I know nobody can see it, but bar panel eyes incident response plans amid rising cyber threats. So all of a sudden, as a civil attorney, I have to deal with things such as cyber threats. So what are cyber threats and what are the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis? Well, I can honestly say that I have been almost the victim of cyber threats twice, meaning I would get an unsolicited email saying, "Hi, Jason, I would like to hire you to represent us. I got your name through James. And he said great things about you, and I have this case. Would you mind looking at it and letting me know?" I know many Jameses. I'll go through the email, I'll look through everything, and I'll see it. And then they'll bait you and they'll say, okay, what do I have to do in order to retain you? Oh, I need a retainer letter and I need money. They sign the retainer letter. They send over $2,500 because that's what I asked for. And then all of a sudden, I send emails, I do whatever, and I go collect on this judgment for this person that sent the email. And I got a settlement agreement in place for $250,000, which was, 1% of the retainer, which was great. So I get an email saying, all right, here's what's going to happen. They're going to pay you and they're going to wire you in all this money. And you're then going to take that money. We want to give you a thank you fee of 10% on top. And then you will wire the rest out to here. Sure, no problem. Well, something came in and it didn't sit right. Um, and I got the money. It came in the door. It wasn't the whole 250. It was like 88,000 and it said partial payment and it had nothing to do with the case. And I'm scratching my head. I do a little bit of research as to where it came from and who it came from. And it was an attorney in Utah. Never been to Utah, never been skiing, no clue what's going on. I did a little bit more due diligence. I called my bank, I called the wire department, I called everything, and then I just picked up the phone and called this person in Utah. Not the number that was listed having to do with the wire, but the number that I found from the Utah Bar Association. And I spoke to this attorney and explained to him what happened. And what he told me was the fact that his system got hacked. The email went out, and this was all part of an elaborate scheme. I don't know all the details to date. I still don't, but I reported it to the FBI. I reported it to the Broward County Police Department because that's where I'm in. And I had Bank of America, who's my bank, basically return the money to where it came from. And the reason I did that is because I didn't know if this guy in Utah was involved. I didn't know who are the bad doers. The only thing I knew is that I received money that I wasn't supposed to receive. So after 10 days of calling Bank of America every single day, they finally reversed the wire, sent it back to where it was came from, and then I was done. And I had to I called the Florida bar because they regulate me. They asked me a whole bunch of questions, told them the truth, which is, no money was lost, no money was moved, no money was anything. And I sent it back. So that was number one. And again, this is all criminal, and I had nothing to do with it, nor do I want to practice in criminal law. The second one had to do with the fact that all of a sudden, one day, I'm getting alerts from Bank of America again that a check number 1234 was deposited. Check number 12345 was deposited. 12346 was deposited. 12347 was deposited. And they're all little checks ranging from $3,800 up to $6,700. Well, I sent a settlement check on behalf of a client, legit, everything was good, to somebody. And what happened was, I'm not sure who, but someone intercepted that package, deposited that check, and what the bank said what they did was they whitewashed my check, meaning they made a copy of it, they put it on different color paper, they made changes to the numbers, and they started writing little checks for three, four, five, six, $7,000 because nobody would notice it. So they thought. So I had to shut down that account, do everything, and once again, involved in criminal stuff. And this happens all the time. All the time. I am currently representing a law firm who is being sued because they, meaning the law firm, were the victim of a scam. And the scam was that on the day of a closing, my client got an email from the broker, and it said, here are the wire instructions one more time. Please go ahead and wire it to the account. And what happened was my client looked at those wire instructions and sent the wire out. Didn't check the old ones. Didn't call and verify. Just, same address, same everything. $860,000 later, wired out to a bogus account to someone that wasn't supposed to get it. And now my client is being sued for $860,000. And again, we as lawyers are being targeted. And that's exactly what the Florida Bar News is saying, that we're being targeted these days because we have, it says experts say lawyers and law firms regularly handle such confidential data that they are prime targets for ransomware attacks. So we handle a lot of money, right? I'm a small law firm, but I'm probably in and out over the course of, I don't know, a year, multiple millions of dollars for business transactions, for buying properties, for selling properties, for doing whatever it is. And if someone sends something to me and I don't have my due diligence hat on and I just say, yeah, go ahead and wire it, I'm on the hook. So the Florida Bar, they're working with us as attorneys, which thank you, Florida Bar. And we have a requirement that we must pick up the phone and wire and verify wire instructions before we send them. And I do it on every single amount that's more than $500. Do I say I do it on every single one? Probably not. But when it's more than 500, absolutely. And if it's to somebody new, 110% do I make that call. I settle cases for clients all the time, and it's a $500 or $700 settlement, and it's the same attorney on the other side. I don't call and verify each time. I just use the same wire instructions, which, should be okay. And again, it's there, but I'm of the mindset that if you're going to wire those funds, and you're not going to be able to cover it if you made a mistake, then you better do everything to cross your T's and dot your I's, because otherwise you're going to be responsible for it. So that's just a little bit of how the civil law, comes over to the criminal side, and vice versa. I mean, I got another case that's going on right now, where my client is a an employee of the government and trusted somebody who was his neighbor who needed a loan. So my client uh, entered into two promissory notes of $50,000 each with this gentleman on the other side, and this gentleman on the other side didn't pay. So my client sued. And we are to the point now where, this guy just doesn't want to return the money. And he's coming up with every excuse as to why he shouldn't. And he's fighting it in court. And, I can't get into it because it's an ongoing case, but this is the normal thing. People we surround ourselves with on a daily basis may or may not try to take advantage of us, and take advantage of our clients and take advantage of you. And it's very important that we have our antennas up and we try to safeguard ourselves. And it's very upsetting and it's very scary, and it's not something that we should have to deal with as human beings, that other people are always trying to take advantage of us. And I intentionally got away from criminal law because I didn't want to deal with that kind of stuff. And here I am as an attorney, primarily for businesses, and I'm constantly involved in things that are teetering into criminal, and talking about you know criminal punishments, and stealing and taking and taking advantage and abusing the system. Um, the perfect example would be, and I don't know who's in the room that's seen this movie, but there's a movie out. It's called The Beekeeper. It's with Jason Stratham and one or two other actors and actresses that the people in the room would know. But it's basically that. The whole thing is about cybercrime. It is, an email is sent, you have a virus on your computer, you got to call customer service, you call customer service, and then the next thing you know, they wipe everything. And that is one of the things. And as a civil attorney, I'm called all the time. Oh my God, I just got hacked. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I call? Well, call the FBI, call the police, file a report, call your bank, do whatever. There's only so much I can do. I can send a demand letter. I can go ahead and notify the bank for you. I can, move the money out of your account and put it in my trust account for safekeeping. But at the end of the day, I'm not a criminal attorney. There's not much I can do. But the clients will turn to me and they'll say, well, you're an attorney, help me. And that is my role, to help. And I don't discriminate between civil and criminal. But if you got arrested for possession of drugs, I wouldn't know where to start. If you got arrested for DUI, I wouldn't know where to start other than getting you a criminal attorney, someone that specializes in that. If you got a speeding ticket, I'd refer you over to Kevin Unger, who's the guy that I use all the time, and he's the one. So, but I need to know and have enough common sense to know that A, I don't know what I'm doing in that realm, and B, to get somebody to help out, to go ahead and protect you. Um, I feel like I've been speaking for like 15 or 20 minutes straight here, which I've been. I don't know if anybody who's listening wants to put any comments in the chat at any point in time. I would love that, because answering questions would be phenomenal. And also, if there's anybody in the room that wants to ask a question, that too. And I can continue to speak after I take a quick drink, and I could talk about why this is happening, or at least why I think this happens, and why people are becoming victims more and more.
I don't think we have any questions here, so go ahead. Continue.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good. So I think people are becoming victims more and more because of social media, because of just information being out there and readily achievable, and that's part of the problem. We don't all safeguard ourselves. Look, I handle closings for people all the time. And as part of the closing, I need your date of birth, your social security number, your EIN number, that's your employee identification number if it's a company. I get all this sensitive information. I usually will tell clients, don't email it to me, call me. Let's get on a Zoom, show me the stuff on Zoom, all of that kind of stuff. If it's a client I know, that's great. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Let me see your ID. Great. I see you're Mary. Let me see your social. Great. I know that. But if it's someone new who I've never met before, how do I know? Right? You're just taking this person at their word. There are companies out there and there are platforms out there that help. There's a company out there called Send Safely, right? Not a promotion, not a marketing, not a whatever. I know someone that works for the company, and I happen to use some of their technology, and I think it's great. And everything is encrypted. It allows you to send things more protected. So if you send me your social security number, it comes in, it's encrypted. I have to put in a code. I have to do it. I have to look. I have to check certain boxes, and you as the sender also need to do that. So there's certain identifying information that both ends have to protect it. I think part of the other reason is that a lot of these people do this because they know there's no repercussions. So what do I mean by that? The police aren't going to pick up, and charge somebody and care about something over a $500 wire, a $500 credit card that you dispute. So they're smart. I don't think the smarter fraudsters is the best way to put it are going to nail you for $500,000, because who these days has $500,000 sitting in a bank account to take a wire out, or that much on a credit card, or do whatever it is. They do small little hits that you may not know about. And it happens all the time. Look, I did something having to do with a marketing company, and I paid for them. I did whatever it was. They helped me out. They ran the stuff. They did a good job, and I didn't think anything more about it. And then towards the end of the year, when I was reconciling and getting my QuickBooks ready and everything ready, I looked, and for every single month for the entire year, I had a $39.95 charge. The heck is this? I didn't even realize it. It was that company, and it was in the contract, and it said that if you don't cancel, we do all this. Well, that just leads me to think that me, as somebody who pays attention to bills and does all of that, if I miss that, what's to make sure that I don't miss a $50 charge from a scam company, or a $75 thing from that, or from there. So we all have to pay really close attention to everything that's going on. And the more attention you pay, the less of a chance you have of being a victim. Now, the other thing is that, and I'll tell a story from personal experience. A lot of times, as an attorney, we get accused of things. We get the fingers pointed at us. We get threatened with sanctions. And why is that? Well, I'm going to say 95% of the time, that comes from when there's a lawsuit where there's a person that's pro se on the other side, meaning he or she doesn't have a lawyer. So here in Florida, and it's different in every state, I will say that. But here in Florida, if I'm representing a client and I am suing an individual, that individual can represent him or herself. If it's a company, cannot. But if it's an individual, that individual has the right to go to court, file the pleadings, and do everything on his or her behalf. So what happens? You file a motion, right? Some sort of motion to compel the other side to show to a deposition. Well, the first thing that the other side does is scream and yell and say, why would I do this and all this and all that? And then they go ahead and they file a motion for sanctions, and a motion for sanctions against my client and me. And they can allege whatever they want as wrongdoing. It could be Mr. Weiss showed up to court wearing a gray shirt. I don't like it. He should be sanctioned. Mr. Weiss has a bracelet on and a ring on. I don't like it. He should be sanctioned. And guess what? There's no repercussion to the person on the other side who's making that. What am I going to do? File a motion to get money from that person when it's $100,000 lawsuit and they're not going to pay the 100 grand? How are they going to come up with an additional 500 or $5,000 in sanctions to pay to me and my client? They're not. So these individuals get to run their scam, run their thing, take their money, and if they decide to defend themselves in court, there's really no downside. Because what are you going to do? You're going to get a judgment. Well, once you have that judgment, you have one of two things to do, or really three, right? You could pay it, not happening. You could go ahead and you could file bankruptcy. Then you're never going to collect and you're going to walk away scot-free. Or you could just ignore the judgment, like most people will probably do, and put everything in your mom, your sister, your aunt, your brother's, your spouse's name, because here in Florida, you're protected, right? So I'm married. If there's a judgment that comes through against me, Jason, well, as long as I own everything as me, Jason, and my wife, that stuff's not touchable. Now, I'm not saying IRS, I'm not saying any of that, but I'm saying just in civil matters, it's untouchable. We have homestead, can't take my house. I have my wife on every bank account, that we have together. Can't touch it. I have, my wife, she can have things in her own name. They can't touch it. I can put things in my kids' names. They can't touch it. The only thing that can be touched is something in my name, which is my business, my law firm. I don't keep a high amount of money in there, so good luck. So when we get accused of things, we have to go into defense mode. We need to back ourselves up. We need to go ahead and show that we've done absolutely nothing wrong. And we need to go ahead and spend all this time. And there's no punishment on the other side. It is very, very, very rare that a judge will order sanctions to the point where it can be criminal. Not impossible, but rare. And now telling that, I actually have a story. So I have a client, and I'm just going to call him Michael. His name is not Michael, but I'm going to call him Michael. So Michael owns a construction company. And what happened was Michael and a whole bunch of other people were all sued because a pool company used various different people's licenses to get approved by the state and permitting and things in, let's just say, Broward County. And Michael's license was used to pull the plumbing permits. And what happened was, after all this was done and the pool company was paid like $80,000 or $90,000, pool company didn't do anything. Just guy walked away. And this pool company has been sued in multiple cases in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties. Multiple cases. So my client, because his name was on the permit, gets a piece of paper and the sheriff shows up at his house and serves him a civil lawsuit. My client looks at the paper. He goes, "Oh yeah, all I did was sign the permit," throws the paper in the garbage. Literally throws it in the garbage. So they got a default against him for not appearing. And he would constantly get letters in the mail from the court, copies of all the pleadings, everything that was going on. And it would say, along the lines of, you didn't show up, default's entered. You didn't show up, default judgment's being answered. You didn't show up, judgment has been entered against you. Didn't show up, we want to set you for deposition. Didn't show up, we're summoning the bank to get copies of your bank accounts. And this kept going on and on and on and on over the course of 18 months. And finally, on a Tuesday night, I get a panicked phone call from Mike. And he says to me, "I screwed up." Okay. How'd you screw up? "I got sued." Okay. Happens to everybody. Don't worry about it. "Well, I didn't reach out to you because I didn't want to deal with it and blah, blah, blah. And long story short, there's a bench warrant out for me." I'm like, "What?" Go on Broward County Court. I look at see what's going on, and sure enough, bench warrant out for Mike Smith. And I'm like, what the heck is going on, Mike? And he told me the whole story. I used my license, I pulled the permits, I did the plumbing, I did whatever. I've still yet to be paid. I haven't made a nickel on this deal. So we unwind it. I file motions with the court. I get things set aside. He does have to turn over certain information. He had to show his bank account. He had to show his license. He had to do all this. And at the end of the day, something that probably would have cost him minimal to nothing and maybe a little bit in attorney's fees wound up costing this client the possibility, and he walked around for about 2 weeks thinking that if a cop stopped him, he was going to jail. And that's what the bench warrant basically said. They're not going to come after you, probably not. Don't take it in every situation. They did. They came, they knocked at his door. He wasn't there. His mother happened to be there because he was traveling for business. And the officer said, well, we have a warrant out for his arrest and we'd like to speak with him. And he cooperated and he did everything. But most of the time, they're not coming to your house to get you, to take you to jail. Because in this situation, what they wanted to do is take him into custody, hold him for 24 hours, and then bring him into the courtroom to be in front of the judge. Scary, scary, scary stuff. All this gentleman had to do in the beginning was look at the papers, turn it over to an attorney. Don't stick your head in the sand. Don't just say, nah, forget it. It's not worth it. Pay attention to it. So it's winding up going to cost him a ton of money in order to get done because there's not much that we can undo here. And this is a job where he actually lost money. So by him sitting on his hands and sitting on his rights and not taking action, he hurt himself even more. So the whole point behind it is that you could do something that is just civil in nature and it could get to the point where it becomes criminal. And all of a sudden, you're facing incarceration, you're facing jail time, you're facing getting hauled into court, you're facing penalties and fines and all of this stuff just because you don't act. And I'll talk a little bit about me and my practice because that's why I changed the way I do things. Um, when I heard about a case like that with Mike, or when my grandmother passed away many years ago, my dad called me up and he said, "Hey Jason, do me a favor, call the attorney that's handling grandma's estate stuff, and can you ask him these 5 questions?" Yeah, I didn't think anything of it. Call him up. What's going on? How you doing? Thanks again for taking care of my grandma. Thanks again for doing it, at the friends and family rate. I appreciate it. My dad asked me to ask you these 5 questions. Boom, 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 boom. Got all 5 answers. Call my dad back. Give him the 5 answers. Hang up the phone. Saying to myself, why couldn't dad just do that, right? He could have. He's an intelligent man. He knows what he's talking about. He knows this stuff better than me. So call my dad back. Hey, dad, question. Why'd you have me call so and so to ask questions about grandma? And he goes, well, when I get the bill from your friend for doing it, he's doing it at a great price, and I have no complaints, no whatever. But I look on the bill and it says phone conference with Jason, point two, no charge. Phone conference with Bruce, that was my dad, point two, and he would charge me $50. I'm like, huh. So you don't want to call him because you're going to get charged. And every time you pick up the phone, you have this concern that you're going to get charged. And he said, yeah. So the way I run my practice is if a client wants to call me on a quick question, hey, I got this contract coming in and you reviewed it, but they changed this and they changed that, can I send it over to you? Would you mind looking at it? No problem. Right? That phone call, I don't charge my clients for. Now, I will charge when you send over the document and I look at it, but I don't charge it. And the point behind that for me is I don't want you to reach out the phone and call me and say, oh my God, I got to get off the phone really quick because I don't want to spend all this money. And I also don't want you to say that I'm not going to reach out to you because I don't want to pay the money on the phone call, right? I want to get paid for my work, not for speaking with you on the phone. And I don't charge my clients for generic phone calls or quick touch point phone calls. Now, look, when a client calls me up and says, "Hey, I need you to sit in on this deposition or this Zoom or this conference call or whatever," I'm billing for that. Don't get me wrong. But if you call me up and say, "I got a quick question. My son was pulled over in a speeding ticket, and should we fight it? Should we do whatever? Or do you have a traffic ticket attorney or something like that?" Most attorneys, bing, $50. Bing, $75. Me? No. Hey, traffic ticket, we're getting you to Kevin Unger, no problem. Now, will it show up on a bill that we talked? Yeah, but it's also going to say no charge across it so that I can keep track of what I'm doing over the course of the day. And so the client can feel like, hey, I got something for nothing. And he actually does care. And that's one of the things, right? We do care. And I know for a fact one of my problems with the practice of law is that I care too much, and I often care more than the client does. When the client is getting sued and it's a whole lot of, whatever, and a whole lot of money, and something doesn't go the client's way, first person to get pissed off is me, right? I can't believe the judge did that. I can't believe the judge said that. The judge is completely wrong. The law, that's not what it says. And the clients more often than not will say, okay, what do we do next? And I'm still fuming over, what just happened. And that's one of the things I would tell everybody in life in general. Be passionate about what you do, right? Show up every day like it's your first, because you don't know who's watching you for the first time, who's speaking with you for the first time, who's experiencing this for the first time. Keep that in mind. I go to court once a week constantly. For me, it's just the norm, right? I'm here, I'm poor, whatever. I bring an associate with me, I bring an intern with me, I bring somebody with me, and that fires me back up. It's like, yeah, that's why I'm doing this again, right? I taught at Nova, I taught at St. Thomas. I'd love to teach at University of Florida or UM, and do that. I got to show these people that I still am passionate about it. I still want to do this. Um, and I apologize for getting on my soapbox and doing that. And I know we're talking more along the thing about sisters in crime and trying to figure out crime. But again, the civil aspect of the law, the corporate stuff, and all of that, it's all in the criminal side of the law as well, because clients and individuals and humans and companies, we're all targets right now. We're all victims right now. You could probably go on between Facebook, Instagram, Google, and one or two of these, run a background search sites for $1.99, and you could probably find out what you want about anybody, anything, and take that information and sign up for something and use a credit card and do all of this and scam somebody. And you could probably be a high school age student and figure it all out. We got to protect ourselves. Be careful. Don't send that driver's license to somebody. Don't give them all the numbers in your social security number. Spell out the words when you're doing things. So instead of, saying that my phone number is 123-456-78910, what you might want to do is spell out one, put the number two, go ahead and spell out the number three, have the number five be an S and not a five. Small little things, believe it or not, could prevent you from being the victim and could prevent others from being the victim. Because what you don't want to do is spend your Friday afternoon on the phone with the police department and the FBI reporting a crime when you could be, trying to get through the rest of your day to go home and spend time with your friends, family, loved ones, and pets. And that's where we're at as society. We're all potential victims. And I hate to sound doom and gloom, but we all need to just take a little bit more precaution. And I'll get into a quick topic that I love, right? I think AI is going to take over the world. And I don't mean it like it was Terminator 2 when the robots came back and all that kind of stuff. I mean that everybody who is computer literate, not even savvy, just computer literate, is going to be using AI. And there's Chat GPT, right? You can put in your stuff and you can find whatever you want, and do whatever you want, with Chat GPT, and you can get in there, and but you're going to put in personal information, and it's not protected, right? And when you go into some of the Chat GPT platforms that are like the open AI, that stuff's not protected. So all of a sudden you're thinking that, oh, Chat GPT, here's my resume and it has my phone number and it has my date of birth and it has all this. Well, guess what? That's all out on the internet now. All of it. Um, and even in the civil cases, right? In lawsuits, we have to check a box as an attorney that says that we've redacted all of the personal information. Well, what do the courts see as personal information? Your date of birth, your phone number, credit card numbers, your social security number, your EIN. So you can only put the last four digits. I can tell you, it happens all the time. Human error, not even intentional. They file something with the entire account number for your credit card with the court records. Well, smart scamsters and smart researchers and smart people, they can go find that number. And guess what? Just because an attorney on the other side now went ahead and forgot to check the box and didn't redact your credit card number, now all of a sudden your credit card's the victim of fraud. And guess what? It probably wasn't the attorney that inserted it into the court. It was probably someone in the office. It could have been an intern, paralegal, a secretary, a younger attorney. And now all of a sudden that attorney is facing consequences with the Florida bar and whatever else that's out there for these innocent actions. And so one of the things is, as attorneys, we're held to a much higher standard, when it comes to doing things, and we can be punished, we can be suspended, we can be sanctioned for things that other people do and won't think twice about it, and they'll get away with it, without a problem, just because we have ESQ or a Florida bar number attached to our name. Now all of a sudden we're a target, and I see it all the time. The Florida bar gets more complaints about lawyers on a regular basis, than they probably want to deal with. And they have to look at these cases and figure out what's wrong, what's right. Judges get it too. I want to sanction this attorney because he didn't talk nicely to me in an elevator. Really? Come on. You're going to sanction me for that. But we can't go ahead and go try to sanction someone else, right? Someone that's a realtor that happens to be involved in a piece of litigation. And if it has nothing to do with something they did as a realtor and a license and all of this, we can't report them to the real estate board. The real estate board's going to say, it had nothing to do with the sale of a piece of property. We're not going to do anything. But me as an attorney, if I happen to be on, I don't know, social media and someone filmed me yelling at somebody who threatened my kid, or filmed me because there was a car accident, and I get out and I say to the other driver, are you a freaking idiot? I can't believe, you didn't stop at that stop sign and look what you did to my car. Well, guess what? That's probably considered a threat. That I'm probably going to be reported to the Florida bar. They're going to look into it. What they'll do, I don't know, probably nothing, but I need to keep myself at a higher standard. So I got to be careful every single thing I do to bite my tongue, look over my shoulder, watch my mouth, keep my temper and my anger in check, and not be human. And that's basically how I feel. Now, there is exaggeration there, and that scenario did not happen, but at the same time, we're officers of the court. We're a reflection upon the court. We're a reflection upon society. And we need to do what's best for society and best for people. And our job is to try to protect people, help people, and safeguard people. And again, you just need to try to do that for yourself as well. Don't make yourself a victim. Don't make yourself somebody that's easy to prey upon. And take precautions. Look, if someone's stealing, your mail, go mail your stuff from somewhere else. Get a PO box. Don't sign up for credit cards when you're at the football games and it's, hey, sign up now for a free Capital One card and you get a free towel. Don't sign up for that kind of stuff. Who knows where that information goes? Who knows if someone's sticking that in their back pocket? Just be careful. My wife, one of the tricks that she uses is if there's something she really, really wants, and she's just not 100% sure if it's on Instagram or TikTok, if it's a scam or not, she's got a PayPal account and she does it through PayPal because they can't attach in and they can't do this and they can't do that. I don't know if that's the answer, but at least it was her trying to plan ahead and think ahead. American Express has a great fraud department. If you're not sure or you want to use American Express. I've had good luck with Discover Card. Certain other cards, once the money is gone, it's gone, especially if it's a debit card. Don't use a debit card, use credit cards. So there are ways to protect ourselves, and sadly, we need to think about that when we're transacting business or doing something with a person for the first time, or for anything. And I'll tell you this, the banks are getting smart too. um, True story. I was on Instagram. I updated my profile. I did a couple of things, and I'm starting to do some promotions between my book and a couple other things. And someone reached out to me, said he'd like to work with me. It's $500. He could, help me do this and help me do that. And here's some free tips and all this and all that. I looked him up. Good BBB review. No comments negative on Ripoff Report, which is a great site, by the way. Ripoff Report, I think .com. And you could type in someone's name or type in something and see what the kind of stuff is. Go to the BBB, look at them. I did that on both of these. And I'm like, you know what? Sounds good. Send me over your Zelle, and I'm going to send you the 500. Sends me a Zelle. I had a wire that needed to go out for another client on a case. Wired that out. Getting ready to wire the Zelle. Send the Zelle out. Say to him it's sent. Confirm when you receive it. And I get an email from Bank of America. Your Zelle has been put on hold. Please call us immediately so we can discuss. Pick up the phone, call. Don't call the number that's on the email from Bank of America. Call the customer service number. That's another thing that you do. If you ever get these emails from Wells Fargo, TD Bank, Bank of America, your account's been compromised, please call the number below so that we could talk with you. Don't do it. Go on the website of the bank, find their number, call that number. That's step number one. So I do that and I call it, and they're like, hey, you're sending this to such and such company in the amount of 500. Yes. Have you ever dealt with this company before? No. Where'd you hear about this company? We've been talking through Instagram for the past couple of days. Have you done a background search? Yes, I looked on Ripoff Report. I've looked on BBB. Well, we want to let you know here at Bank of America that this vendor has had multiple chargebacks, multiple complaints. And if you want to go ahead and waive the right to go ahead and get your money back, we'll go ahead and send the wire. But otherwise, we're not sending it. Holy cow, right? So I get back on Instagram, reach out to the guy. I'm like, hey, I tried Zelling it to you. I sent you the screenshot. It's showing that it's not coming. So he's like, oh, I don't know. Just Venmo it to me instead. Like, no, sorry. Oh, I've done all this work and I've had my team work on it and all of this. I'm like, look, this is over a $500 thing. How much work could you have done? I just told you 30 minutes ago to get started. Come on, seriously? And that was it. I blocked him on Instagram and I haven't heard from him since. Um, and I consider myself a fairly intelligent and fairly due diligent person. And this is not the first time that I've been the victim. Look, I represented a client. I was helping him out, and he owned a construction company, and he had, permits and license, and I was doing all this legal work for him, and he was starting to get paid on his jobs, and he was starting to fray his bill, and he owed me like 50 grand. And I was new in my practice, and I didn't know any better, and I carried him like I was a bank and an interest-free loan, and then I bought a house. And I said to him, I said, here's the deal. I bought my house. I'll go ahead. I'll get all the supplies. but you're going to provide me the labor for free. You're going to work your bill off. Oh my God, that's great. I love that idea. You're the man. Thank you so much. Not only will I give you the 50,000, in that, but I'll give you extra on top because it's all of this, and you really saved my butt, and thank you so much, and all this. Bought a house, ready to go. He's supposed to show up with his crew on Monday, and I got a text Sunday night from his son. Hey, Jason, sorry to let you know, but my dad was just picked up. Picked up? Picked up for what? He breached his probation. Well, I knew he was on probation. And sentencing is now, they're bringing him in. He's going to go 7 years in federal prison. What? So I relied upon this gentleman. I did all this legal work for him. I went to bat for him. I went 50,000 in the hole in fees for him. I bought a house based on that, and then I get shafted. Thank God my parents had a little bit of money sitting around and they were able to help me out. And in not, look, $40,000, and I borrowed it and I paid them back every single penny plus interest. I mean, thank you, mom, and thank you, dad. Rest in peace. But I mean, this was, I was a victim. I worked with a recruiter because I wanted to go ahead and find a new law job, find something out there. Did my due diligence, got recommendations, wired him 7,500 bucks. His contract is very clear. You pay me 7,500. I don't do the job for you. I keep $1,500 in fees, cost, admin, all of that. I wire you back 6 grand. Well, here I sit a year and a half later, still haven't gotten my refund of my 6 grand. What does he think? Well, I went on the Better Business Bureau and I went on all these blogs and all these sites, and he's doing this to tons of people. Nobody's suing him. Why? Because most people are saying, it's 6 grand, it's not worth it. Guess what? I'm going to be the exception to that rule. I am in communication with him. I'm watching the statute of limitations. I'm going to go after him, and I'm going to file a police report, and I'm going to do everything because I want to put a stop to this guy. And there are numerous people that need to be stopped. And if you truly are the victim of something, don't just let it go, right? Report it. Take the time. Do something. Try to protect others. That's how I look at it. Yes, $6,000 is a lot of money. I'm not going to lie. $6,000, I spent it so long ago that it's gone. But at the end of the day, if I could stop other people that are in a job search and trying to do something and scrape together $7,500 to pay this guy, if I can help 2 or 3 other people from not being a victim, it's so worth it. What's the statute of limitations on something like that? So each state is going to be different. Statute of limitations in Florida is 4 years for a breach of contract and 5 years for an oral breach of contract. So for me, this was 2 years ago, and this guy's in Utah. The statute of limitations in Utah for contracts is similar. It's a 3 year, 4 year. So I've got time. And I'm still in communication with this guy. He emails, I don't know, once or twice a month when I, tell him that, I still, or is this where your mailing address is, or this where it is? He screwed up with me when he said to me, do me a favor, and instead of wiring it to my company, please wire it to me directly. He probably thought he was getting one over on me because I was sending it to him. Well, what he didn't realize is he screwed himself, because when I sent him the wire individually, he put himself on the hook for a civil lawsuit individually. So now when I go ahead and sue the company that I hired, I can also sue him. And what he does is he plays a shell game. He's got 4 or 5 different companies, and I've seen it all on the Better Business Bureau's website, where they're all complaining about all of his companies. I got him individually, and I'm going to. I'm going to send a process server. I'm going to get it out to his house, or I'm going to find out where he's at, and I'm going to do it in a place of public. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn, and I'm going to use social media to my benefit, right? Why should social media only be used to scam people? Well, shoot, I'm going to be putting something up, and I'm going to say, hey, if this recruiter has ever reached out to you, run. You hear the expression that it's too good to be true. Well, if you're ever working with so and so, it is too good to be true. He's going to go ahead and he's going to give you this great contract and great stuff, and he's going to promise success. And if he doesn't get success, you get all your money back. Well, guess what? He's not going to get you success, and he's not going to give you your money back. So run from this guy. And that's the email that's going to him in the next couple of days. And that's the email that I'm not sure if I'm going to put out during Thanksgiving or Christmas and say Merry Christmas to the world, especially this recruiter. Check out what happened. Now, will I open myself up to liability? No. Am I slandering him? No. Am I defaming him? No. Am I committing libel? No. So those three words, defamation is that you say something about someone to hurt their reputation. And it can be written or posted or said out loud or anything like that. And then you have the two separate categories under defamation, which are libel and slander. Slander is when it is spoken. Think S, spoken slander. And libel is when it is written, and I think literature or reading. So if it's libel, you write it. If it's slander, you say it. Well, there's a great thing about libel, slander, and defamation. The truth will set you free, but the truth is the ultimate defense. So if I were to say that I don't like the Boston Red Sox because I do not like the fact that they have red in their uniform, well, that is true, right? I do not like the fact that they beat the Yankees the last time they play. That is true. Now, if I say something that's a lie, like the Boston Red Sox are the best baseball team in the world, well, then you can get me for slander. I'm a Yankees fan, as you can see over my shoulder. But again, you're allowed to say things, but the truth will be the ultimate defense. So if I craft it very carefully that I hired this recruiter, he had a term in his contract that
Yeah.
said that 1,500 is
Publicly.
non-referable, non-refundable, and the rest is refundable if he doesn't get it for me. And I post that 100% allowed. And it wasn't a confidential document either. It didn't say this is a confidential agreement. So if I wanted to, I could post it online. Was there a question from the room? I saw it lit up. Oh, thank you. Now I can stop speaking for a second.
Yeah, my battery almost went out, and that's why I was rushing around here trying to plug in.
Okay.
Um, I had a comment, and I really like this concept of how the average guy finds himself in deep water with this guy, throwing his stuff in the trash and doesn't pay attention. I could see that as, a thriller where, and then he gets in trouble and then he tries to fight back and he's fighting back with the wrong people and all this stuff. I mean, this is classic,
Hmm.
but you've given us like a modern glimpse of how it could work in today's world. There'd be a different thing than seeing the mob kill somebody off the, side of the street or something. Yeah, yeah. So that was
I mean,
excellent.
and one of the things is this, look, um, I get documents all the time. Like I'm primarily electronic. I try to go paperless, but impossible. I mean, I would show you, those are all file cabinets in my home office that all have files in them. And you know, I have to protect my clients and myself that when I decide to get rid of all those, I need to shred them or I need to burn them or I need to get rid of them. Like you just said, if I were to take them and look at it and throw it in the recycle bin and someone comes by and picks it up, I'm on the hook. I'm screwed. So I need to take that extra step as well. Now, look, do I need to and sometimes it's not worth it, right? I'll sit there and there'll be piles like this and I'll be, you know what? For $20, I'm going to shred the whole pile as opposed to I can sift through it and this is public record and this is fine and this is an advertisement and I'll only spend $7 instead. It's not worth it. Admittedly, for me to go through it for an hour, I'm better off working for half an hour. And we have to take, certain things to protect ourselves. Be very careful. Don't get that information on the phone. Don't fall for the scams that it's the IRS calling you or sending you an email, because the IRS communicates with you two ways. Number one is through the US mail, and number two is when you're on the phone with them through fax. They'll say to you, "Oh, I need a power of attorney. I need this form." Great. Where can I email it? Sorry, sir, we can't take email. You can fax it to this number. Let me give you my personal fax number. And then you can back and make sure that that fax number is really tied into the IRS. And that's the other real big thing. I think, I don't remember if it was my mother-in-law or my mother, but it was definitely a family member. And they called me up and they told me about this whole thing, and they were getting ready to call the bank on the number that was on the email. I'm like, do not call that number. Because who do you think's picking that up? That's the scammer. What? Oh, you're at TD Bank? Hang on. TD Bank, customer service, fraud department. All right, let's call that number. And sure enough, wrong number. Phishing. And same thing with emails, right? Don't click those links. Do not click those links, because 90% of the time they're fake and they're going to get your information. And even now, the way that tech is, I used to say, I'll check the email on my phone, because what are they going to get out of my phone? Now they can get the same thing. So don't click those links.
That's really good advice. I call the number on the back of the card itself, the card I've been using that I
Yep.
know is right, you know?
Yep. Yep. Smartest way to do it.
I get nervous even about websites because they can clone the website or something.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so the
And-
beekeeper was such a good example of this type of crime.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say, and I don't know if this works for everybody because of, credit scores and all that kind of stuff. I have one or two credit cards that cover my reoccurring things, my car insurance, my Netflix account, my antivirus account. So I have all those on a credit card. And then I have a separate credit card that I will do the things that aren't reoccurring, such as, like I'll go to Walmart or I'll go to a gas station or I'll do something. Because God forbid that credit card got hacked. I don't need to now go ahead and change it for 50 other credit cards. I could just go ahead and get rid of that one credit card and call the company and they'll issue me a new one and they'll put a stop. But again, that might not be easy for everybody on the planet, because you might not have a good enough credit score to have a second one or a third one or whatever it is. But if you can, that's my recommendation. I actually, and I'm not picking one company over the other, but for fraud and all of that kind of stuff, I have found that Discover and American Express are really, really good.
Yeah,
But
that's really
get your own. Use prepaids. Do whatever it is. But my suggestion would be try to break things up into two credit cards. One that's your everyday I'm using it, and the other one for these are my reoccurring charges. Like in the old days, talk to the hand. Now it's talk to the mic.
Yeah. Sit here, Audrey, so you see.
um, at the gas station pumps. I went ahead and got a Shell credit card because I figured if they scam that card, Shell will deal with it and I won't. And it did happen. It eventually happened. And it was a charge somewhere I've never even heard of, not in St. Augustine or Jacksonville. And I called the number on the card and said, I was home in my jammies watching TV, not me.
Yep.
They
Yep.
took care of it and they issued me a new card. And
Yep.
that's the only card I use to get gasoline, because I'm not going to put my debit in the machine or a credit card in my machine, in that machine. They want to screw with Shell Oil Corporation. They got big attorneys. They could deal with it.
Yep. You're 100% correct. The only problem that you might run into would be if you want to go use mobile or BP. They may not accept your Shell credit card. So that's why one of the things that what she said, no, I only use Shell. It's
Yeah,
okay.
that's only Shell.
Okay. So then you look, I'll use, usually whatever's closest to the highway, or, when my son borrows the car and leaves it on, on fumes, I got to go to But again, I have a personal, just a Jason, not tied into my wife, nothing, an Amex. And that's what I use. And she has the same thing. An Amex that's under her through, I think, JetBlue, so we can check our bags for free. Um, but it's sad that we need to think that way, but it's good to see that I'm not alone.
Yes, I'm thinking that, as far as we've gone with technology now, we're kind of circling back to where you got to call people on the phone. You got to know who you're dealing with. Back
Mhm.
to the old days before any of this ever came up. That's our only real security.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad would not pay his bills for bill pay or pay anything else. And then he
Hmm.
finally got into that he'll go to his bank account and he'll have it sent from there. But he wouldn't have
Hmm.
anything on auto pay because he was terrified and nervous. And
Hmm.
then when my dad passed away about a year ago, my mom said, "Your dad had everything on nothing on auto pay. Get rid of it all. Do it all on auto pay. I don't want to deal with it." So I said, "Okay." But he might have been right. You know, he was
Yeah.
not the victim of scams. So
Hmm.
maybe we need to learn from him. Take two steps backwards.
Yes. Yes, exactly. The old ways aren't necessarily a step back.
No, I don't. I think we were just more careful in the old days. We
Yes.
we cared a little bit more, but and not wanting to get into politics or anything like that. With
Hmm.
it's a known fact. All prices have gone up. You would think that with all prices going up, we would pay a little bit more attention. I go into the grocery store and a 12 pack of diet soda is $9, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I drink 2 or 3 cans of soda a day, so I got to stop.
That gets us into a whole nother ball of
Yes.
wax.
Or I got to sell more books. One of the
Yes.
two.
So tell us, show us your book again.
Yep.
Tell us what, what it's about.
So it's called Shit They Never Taught You in Law School, The Survival Guide to Navigating the Law. So originally, when COVID first started, everybody on the planet was, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to do this and I'm going to make courses. And I was on that bandwagon, right? I was going to make a course and I was going to do all this. But I know me as an attorney, my attention span for looking through PowerPoints and reading the materials and not going to happen. So one of the people that I was working with who did very good by me, and we were going to develop a course, she's like, you got to do these PowerPoints, and I'm like, no, not doing it. So I kind of lost my passion to doing the coaching part. And I had all this material in my head, and I had the outlines and do all this. And then I got an email from a colleague of mine who our sons both played lacrosse, and he had a legal question for me. And I answered his legal question. And I said, "Are you still doing book publishing?" And he said, "Yes." And I'm like, "I want in. I want to write a book." Paid the money, did whatever. And there's two ways to write the book. Lana, I know you know this. The first one is you can have someone ghost write for you, or the second way is that you can do it yourself. I made the decision to do it myself. I wrote every single word in the book by myself. I did hire an editing team and a creative team to do the front and the back and all that kind of stuff, but I wrote it all. And I just started telling stories and, just certain things about the book. So, one of my chapters is it's called The Practice of Law for a Reason. Right? It's not the science of law. It's not the black and white of the law. It's called the practice of law. And you practice until you get it right, and then you keep fine-tuning it. One of the things that applies to lawyers, you're only as good as your book of business, right? You could be the best lawyer on the planet, most scholarly person out there. But if you don't have a client to help, what good is all that knowledge? So you need a book of business. Go out, get clients, represent them, do the best you can, make money, make everybody happy. Another thing is, know your audience. If I were in front of a judge today, I would be wearing a white shirt, a tie, a jacket, and all of that. I'm in front of a group of professionals and phenomenal people. So I put on a collared shirt. If I were with my son's lacrosse coach, I'd probably wear a t-shirt. That's it. And another chapter, and I'll just give you a quick insight, is no knee-jerk reactions. That's what's going to get you in trouble. oh my God, I can't believe the attorney on the other side said that. I'm going to fire off an email to her and I'm going to put her in her place and send. You can never get that back. Don't do it, right? You're like me, you get passionate, you get fired up, you do all of that. Who do I email that disgusting email to? Myself. I email to me, and then I'll go back and look at it when the cooler head prevails. And 90% of the time, I don't wind up sending that any email. And the 10% of the time that I do, it's so watered down that it's basically like, you know, I heard what you said in court today. I don't agree, and we should get on a phone call instead of you're a piece of this and that. Blah, 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 blah. So no knee-jerk reactions. So those are 4 of the 18 chapters in the book. I wrote the entire book sitting on lacrosse fields, hotels, airplanes, and airports. And I found for me, it was a great distraction and it tricked my brain into saying, you should be working, you are working, but you're doing something you like, as opposed to drafting a pleading or drafting a complaint or doing. So for me, it was great. And I dedicated the book to my dad. He passed while I was writing the book. And originally I wasn't going to do a dedication, and he passed, and I did a dedication. And in my humble opinion, that's what made the book what it is.
Mm. Jason, thank you so much. This has been a great presentation. We really appreciate you spending time with us today.
I am
And
I am honored, and I hopefully I wish I was closer. I would come up to the event on the 18th, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Maybe I'll just show up.
yeah, for sure. I will make the recording accessible to you so you
Thank
can
you.
have it if you want it. And all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.